So this is the code where we created an application, an Android application via Kotlin and Java, which basically does is uses accelerometer to track the respiratory rate of a person while keeping the phone on the chest from the back end side. And another thing that we did is created a ch check the heart rate via the flashlight and the camera. Like we check the coloration of the finger that a person puts on the camera, and accordingly it calculates the heart rate. So the code for the same are mentioned over here. So since we have used Android and Kotlin, so there are multiple packages that was imported. And this is the main dot activity which triggers, which basically runs. And all the helper and system login page that we have added for additional functionalities are here. So, and these are all the Kotlin files. So in this main activity, and we have, in order to like what, how exactly we are recording a video and creating an MP4 file. And through after creating saving this MP4 file inside a particular directory of the Android phone, we are what we are doing basically running the helper heart rate calculator function that was provided to us to analyze that video, and accordingly based on the coloration of the finger we calculate the heart rate. So in order to record a video through the Android phone via this application without installing, we need to give this permission for it to record the phone. So that's why we pass 101, and permission code is this 100 for camera, and video record is 101 because we have to open camera as well. So for that also permission required, and for recording video also we need the permission. Now this is the first. These are all the variables that we have created, and that is fine. And this is the first like this is like a life cycle activity that basically runs like as soon as the application gets it, these all things are starting to get run. Okay. And after our application is loaded, so first of all I'll show you the layout of our application. So layout of our application can be found inside the layout folder that we have here. Inside activity main.xml, we have the layout folder for the activity main. And the symptom logging page is this, like this, as you can see here. So for main activity, we have the symptoms button, we have this upload science button, and measure heart rate and measure respiratory. So by clicking on these buttons, the required functions are triggered, and thread also, like for calculating respiratory rate, we have created a thread, and inside the thread, there is this helper function used for calculating the respiratory rate. Similarly, for my heart rate, we have same another helper function, but there was some issue with the helper function, so I did change few of the words, few of the functionality in the helper function of measuring heart rate. So this is the button that is used. Like on click of this button, that even is triggered. Similarly, upload science, on clicking on upload science, this particular activity symptom login page opens, and what it does is basically we need can select any one activity, and the list of activity symptoms inside this item one Dropbox is present in arrays. This .xml, which is this one. As you can see, these are the symptoms that we can see inside the symptom logging page. So basically you can see the text view as well for this. So this is the text view, and this is how it's designed: button, spinner, everything. Rating by what all components we have: text view components, widget. So this is the code for that. Similarly for Actimina also, we can see the code. Okay. Now we'll move on to the main activity. So as we can see that we have this on click listener. So what it does is basically on submission of heart rate, respiratory, like clicking on the button, it basically get the values to that. Okay, after clicking the button. So, so respiratory rate submit button. So if you see in the activity main, we have this respiratory submit. Where is it? Respiratory button. Yeah, heart rate submit, respiratory submit. So these are all buttons. So as on click of that, this is listener is added, and we are calculating, we are calling a thread for respiratory rate, and for heart submit rate, what we are doing is we are creating the media file, creating this MP4 file, which will get stored inside the Android phone, whichever Android phone that we are using. And this is the URI of that particular MP4 file. which we will analyze and pass it into the helper function, because we need to pass two parameters inside the helper, that is the URI and the context resolver. So these are all basically utility functions that you can say. Get function to check whether the permissions are added or not. And also we are verifying whether the requested permission of video recording is there, or if it is there, then only we are going inside this, and then only we are starting to calculate the heart rate. So first we are getting the heart rate, and then like the button one, view by ID, text view. So, and then what we are doing is global scope dot launch. Why we are doing this? Because our function is having suspend fun. Like suspend functions needs to be called via the coroutines or the another suspend function. And since this on activity result is not a suspend function, that's why we need to add this coroutine global scopes dot launch. So after adding this, I'm calling the heart rate calculator and passing the required URI which we fetched over here. Where is it? Yeah, this. So video part dot spring. Okay. After this is the URI, and that is the content resolver. So that's it, and then eventually it calculates us, and on the UI as run on UI thread, it's a separate thread. Inside this, we upload the value onto the toString and adds the BPMN. So that's how our output has like 150 BPMN or like that. Similarly, breaths per minute, we have this. There is respiratory is down, I guess. Yes. So respiratory has this respiratory breaths per minute. Now this is pretty much it. Like this is the helper code that we were provided for heart rate and respiratory rate. So similarly, respiratory rate also we are passing some Excel values that we calculate above. So that's it. And Synstrom's login page is basically that page that is the second page after when you click the upload signs. So here we can see we are adding it, the submit buttons and all. Same on click of listener. What we are doing is we are inserting this values, the required values, the respiratory rate, the what do you say, heart rate, and the symptoms that he or she has added, along with the how severe it is. And these all we are adding into a database known as SQLite. We are using the SQLite database. So we are not using NoSQL database. We are using relational one. So that's how SQLite is used. And finally, it is getting uploaded to the database using this particular codes. So this is all the code that we have. These are basic check functions. Okay. Now assignment DB helper. So this is the query which is actually inserting the values inside the table, that is the TVL PDT. And this is my database sign.db. And that's it. This is the query. Create table. It is creates the table with all the symptoms and text numeric. And if we add only one symptoms, and then the rest of the taken are automatically zero. Okay. So that is fine. And these are all the on upgrade, on downgrade, on create. So life cycle functions, which we are overriding and adding our own required code. So this was pretty much it. And also the Android manifest file, which is the important file where we need adding all the required permissions and modules that we require for this particular Android application. So we have this permissions that we need on our Android phone, from which we are recording the videos of heart rate calculation, and from which we are using the sensors of accelerometer to calculate the respiratory rate. So all these permissions are required. And also, like while doing so, we are while recording a video, that means that we are encoding, like we are using storage, right? So that's why we need this is write external storage, like we are creating it. And also we are reading the MP4 file, so we need the read external storage as well. Similarly, we are using the vibrate function in that, so as to get the user notification that the measuring of the heart rate or the respiratory rate is started, and as soon as it ends, there is also a vibration sensation sent to the user, so as to feel like that is done. Now you can wake up and check. Similarly for the camera, record audio, body sensors, everything. And yeah, this is also. This is important because if you don't provide this, then we won't be able to access camera. So these are all the necessary permissions that you need to add in order to create the application. And yeah, there is one more thing like logcat, which we use to debug, and all the logs are over here. So I've used an Android phone, which where all the application I ran, because on virtual devices I cannot see the camera, right? So that's why I had to use this. So this is pretty much it about the code. Thank you. I'll stop the recording now. Hmm.